Listen, I need to tell you something, and you need to understand that what I am about to say is not exaggeration. It is not fear-mongering. It is not some dramatic retelling meant to entertain you over fermented grain beverages at the local hub. This is fact. Cold, hard, terrifying fact. My name is Vector, and I am, or rather I was, a senior intelligence analyst for the Galactic Preservation Council. Notice I said was. Past tense. Because after what happened with the humans, well, let us just say early retirement became very attractive very quickly. You want to know why the Council declared war on humanity. You want to know why 17 civilizations, some of them millions of years old, some of them so advanced they could rearrange solar systems like furniture, decided that one species on one unremarkable blue planet needed to be completely, utterly, and permanently erased from existence. Sit down. This is going to take a while. It started 300 cycles ago, when the humans first achieved faster-than-light travel. Now normally when a species cracks FTL, we celebrate. We send ambassadors. We offer them a seat at the table, metaphorically speaking, since half our member species do not even have the concept of sitting. We welcome them to the galactic community with open appendages and optimistic forecasts about cultural exchange and mutual benefit. The humans made us regret every single diplomatic protocol we had ever established. I remember the day their first ship arrived at Threshold Station. I was there, clipboard in manipulator, ready to process another standard first contact scenario. Boring stuff, really. Fill out forms, assign quadrant, establish trade routes, go home, have dinner, complain about bureaucracy. Standard cycle. Then their ship showed up. Now, most species, when they build their first FTL vessel, they make it functional, efficient. They prioritize survival, navigation, basic amenities, reasonable things, logical things. Humans built a warship, not a ship that could be weaponized, not a vessel with defensive capabilities, a warship. Actual, purpose-built, designed from the ground up to destroy things, warship. Their first interstellar vessel had enough firepower to crack a small moon, and they called it, and I am not making this up, the diplomatic envoy. The irony was apparently lost on them. Ambassador Kellis, the poor fool assigned to greet them, nearly had a systemic failure when their captain, a woman named Victoria Kane, came aboard. She was smiling. Humans smile a lot, we learned. It is sometimes friendly, sometimes threatening, sometimes both. Reading their facial expressions is like trying to predict quantum fluctuations. Utterly impossible. Greetings, Kellis said, his translation matrix working overtime. On behalf of the Galactic Preservation Council, we welcome you to the greater community of sentient beings. We hope this marks the beginning of a long and peaceful relationship between our peoples. Victoria Kane looked at him, looked at the 12 armed security officers flanking Kellis, looked at the weapon scanners, the blast doors, the emergency force fields, all standard protocol, mind you. Every species gets the same treatment. We are cautious, not paranoid. She laughed. Not a polite chuckle, not a nervous titter. A full, head thrown back, genuinely amused laugh. You know, she said, where I come from, when someone greets you with a dozen soldiers pointing weapons at your face, we call that an ambush, not a welcome. Kellis sputtered. These are merely precautions. Standard procedure. We mean no offense. None taken, Kane replied, still grinning. Want to see our standard procedure? Before Kellis could respond, she tapped something on her wrist device. Every single weapon system on the diplomatic envoy, all 743 of them, activated simultaneously. Targeting lasers painted every critical system on Threshold Station. Missile tubes opened. Energy weapons hummed to life. Railguns spun up with a sound like mechanical screaming. The station went into immediate lockdown. Alarms blared. Emergency protocols activated. 3 different species on the command deck experienced involuntary waste elimination. It was chaos. And Victoria Kane? She was still smiling. Relax, she said. Just showing you ours. Fair is fair, right? She deactivated the weapons. The targeting lasers winked out. When the missile tubes closed, the station slowly returned to normal operational status. Kellis, to his credit, did not immediately order her execution. He probably should have. Would have saved us all a lot of trouble. Instead, he cleared his throat, adjusted his ceremonial sash, and pretended the last 30 seconds had not just violated every diplomatic norm established in the last million years. Perhaps, he said carefully, we should discuss the terms of your integration into the galactic community. Sure, Kane said. But first I have a question. How many of your member species are predators? Odd question, but Kellis answered honestly. Approximately 37% evolved from predatory ancestors. Why do you ask? And how many of those predatory species are still actively predatory? As in, they still hunt and kill and eat other living things? None, Kellis said, confused. Predatory behavior is generally abandoned once a species achieves agricultural development. It is inefficient and unnecessary once food can be cultivated. Surely humans have also abandoned such primitive behaviors? The look on Kane's face should have been our first warning. That mix of amusement and something darker, something hungry. Oh, she said. Oh no, we definitely still do that. In fact, we are so good at it, we had to invent rules to make it fair for the animals. Give them a fighting chance, you know. Otherwise, it would be too easy. Kellis blinked, all four of his eyes. I do not understand. You hunt for sport? For entertainment? Some of us, yeah. Others hunt for food, some do both. We have entire industries built around it. Weapons, gear, training. We have television shows about it. We have competitions. But surely, Kellis protested, surely you must see how wasteful and barbaric that is. How unnecessary. Kane shrugged. Maybe. But we are persistence predators. Ambassador, it is what we do. It is what we are. We chase things until they cannot run anymore. Until their hearts give out. Until they collapse from exhaustion. Then we eat them. Been doing it for millions of years. Not about to stop now, just because we invented faster-than-light travel. I was monitoring the conversation remotely, recording everything for the official records. I remember thinking, right then, that we might have made a mistake, that maybe we should have waited, observed them longer, or made sure they were actually ready for contact. But protocols are protocols. They had FTL. They deserved a chance. Looking back, I really wish protocols had included an exception for apex predators who thought hunting for sport was normal. The integration process was, to put it mildly, difficult. Humans did not fit into any existing category. They were not hive mind, not telepathic, not even particularly logical. They made decisions based on things like feelings and hunches and something they called gut instinct, which apparently referred to their digestive system giving them tactical advice. Their biology was a nightmare. They evolved on a death world. And I do not mean that metaphorically. Earth, their homeworld, has a surface gravity that would crush most species. An atmosphere so corrosive it literally rusts metal. Temperatures that swing from boiling to freezing. Weather patterns that include rotating columns of wind strong enough to destroy buildings. Oceans filled with enough salt to kill most carbon-based life forms. And the humans? They called it home. They called it beautiful. They wrote poetry about it. They also ate things that would kill any sane species. Capsaicin, alcohol, processed sugars, caffeine. They consumed literal poisons for fun, for the taste, for the experience. We had to create entirely new warning labels for human-rated food because 3 different ambassadors nearly died trying their cuisine. But none of that, none of the biology or the strange psychology or the weird dietary habits, none of that is why the Council declared them too dangerous. No, that came later. The first incident happened 6 months after first contact. A human colony ship, the New Horizon, was traveling through neutral space when it was attacked by raiders. Kreshik pirates, to be specific. Nasty bunch, aggressive, territorial. They had been harassing shipping lanes for decades, but they mostly left council vessels alone. Cost-benefit analysis. Not worth the trouble. The New Horizon was not a warship. It was a colony vessel. Families, children, civilians. Completely unarmed according to every scanner we had. The Kreshik boarded it expecting easy prey. Standard raid. Take the valuables. Maybe some slaves. Quick and profitable. They got slaughtered. Not defeated. Not repelled. Slaughtered. Turns out, when humans say a ship is unarmed, they mean it does not have mounted weapon systems. They do not count personal firearms or improvised explosives, or the apparently extensive collection of knives, clubs, and other implements of violence that every human carries as a matter of course. The colonists killed 47 Kreshik boarders with, and I am reading directly from the incident report here, farming equipment, kitchen utensils, and bare hands. Bare hands. One colonist, a woman named Patricia Okonkwo, strangled 3 Kreshik warriors to death using a garden hose. A garden hose. The Kreshik were trained fighters, armed, armored, and they died to agricultural irrigation equipment. When council peacekeepers arrived to investigate, they found the surviving Kreshik locked in the cargo bay, babbling about demons and monsters. The humans? They were having dinner. Cooking something they called stew using ingredients we could not identify. One of the children was wearing a Kreshik helmet like a trophy. The peacekeepers asked Patricia Okonkwo what happened. She shrugged. They threatened our families, she said. What did they think was going to happen? That should have been our warning. Right there. That casual acceptance of extreme violence. That complete lack of remorse. That shocked confusion that anyone would expect a different outcome. But we rationalized it, justified it. They were defending themselves, protecting their young, very understandable, forgivable. Any species would react strongly to threats against their offspring. Except most species would negotiate, surrender, flee. The humans killed 47 armed warriors with farming tools and acted like it was the most natural thing in the world. The council issued a formal apology to the humans for failing to protect them from the pirates, offered compensation, increased patrols, all the usual gestures. The humans thanked us politely. Then they hunted down the Kreshik pirate base themselves. 17 ships, 400 raiders. They defended stronghold on an asteroid with military-grade shields and weapons. The humans destroyed it in 6 hours. They did not even use their military. They used civilian volunteers, people with regular jobs who just decided, apparently, that piracy needed to be discouraged. They called it a militia, a citizens' defense force. They had a vote about it, democracy in action. The survivors, all 12 of them, surrendered immediately and begged to be handed over to council authorities. They said the humans were insane, that they fought like they had nothing to lose, that they turned a military operation into something they called a turkey shoot, which we later learned referred to an ancient human practice of hunting flightless birds for sport. The council held an emergency session. Debates raged for weeks. Some argued for immediate expulsion. Others said we should give them a chance. They were young, impulsive. They would calm down, mature, learn proper civilized behavior. We voted. Narrow margin. Humanity would remain part of the galactic community, but under strict observation, mentorship programs, cultural exchange, education. We would teach them to be better, to be peaceful, to be civilized. Looking back, the arrogance of that decision still amazes me. We thought we could change them, domesticate them, turn apex predators into herbivores through exposure to enlightened philosophy and superior culture. We were idiots. The second incident happened a year later. A human science vessel, The Curiosity entered a restricted zone. The zone had been restricted for good reason. It contained the remnants of an ancient civilization, dangerous technology, automated defense systems, booby traps. Dozens of expeditions had tried to explore it. None had returned. The humans ignored the warnings. Of course they did. We told them it was dangerous. To a human, that apparently translates to interesting. They went in anyway. 3 days later, they came back out, intact, alive, carrying data that would revolutionize our understanding of ancient technologies. They had bypassed security systems that had stumped our best experts for centuries. They had disabled traps that had killed hundreds of researchers. They had translated languages dead for millennia. When asked how they did it, the lead scientist, a man named Marcus Webb, grinned. "We tried stuff until something worked," he said. "But the risk," our experts protested. "The danger. You could have died." "Sure," Webb agreed. "But we did not. And look what we found. Totally worth it. Totally worth it." They had risked death, potentially painful and horrible death, for knowledge, for curiosity, for the experience. And they considered it a fair trade. That was when I started compiling my report. The one that eventually led to the Council Declaration. The one that got me assigned to a backwater monitoring station where nothing ever happens and everyone pretends I do not exist. I titled it Species Assessment, Humanity, a Clear and Present Danger. I outlined everything. The casual violence, the risk-taking behavior, the complete disregard for established safety protocols, the disturbing tendency to view obstacles as challenges rather than warnings, the fact that they had built their entire civilization on a foundation of controlled aggression and barely suppressed chaos. I recommended immediate reclassification from developing species to existential threat. The Council laughed at me. Actually laughed. They said I was overreacting, being paranoid, seeing patterns where none existed. Humans were just enthusiastic, energetic. They would settle down. Give them time. I was overruled, reassigned, forgotten. That was 2 years ago. Want to know what happened next? The humans started expanding. Not slowly, not carefully. They exploded outward like they were racing against time itself. Colony ships, mining operations, trading posts, scientific outposts. They spread across their sector like wildfire, claiming systems, establishing settlements, with building infrastructure at a pace that made every other species look like they were moving in slow motion. When we asked them to slow down, to respect established territorial boundaries, to coordinate with neighboring species, they smiled and nodded and agreed completely. Then they kept doing exactly what they had been doing. They were not malicious about it, not deliberately aggressive. They just had this unstoppable momentum, this driving need to expand and grow and explore and build. Like they were afraid if they stopped moving, if they paused even for a moment, something terrible would happen. We later learned this was because of their history, of their evolution. On Earth, if you stopped moving, you died. If you stopped hunting, you starved. If you stopped competing, you were replaced. Millions of years of evolution had hardwired into them this constant, desperate need to struggle and strive and survive. And now they had FTL travel. Now they had fusion power. Now they had genetic engineering and artificial intelligence and all the tools of an advanced civilization. But they still had the psychology of persistence predators hunting prey across vast savannas. Still had the mindset of creatures who had clawed their way to the top of their food chain through sheer bloody-minded determination. We gave apex predators starship drives. And we wondered why they started acting like apex predators with starship drives. The third incident, the one that finally convinced the Council I was right, happened 6 months ago. The Vrexian hegemony, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, made a mistake. They demanded the humans evacuate 3 colony worlds in what the Vrexians claimed was their historical territory, ancient borders. sacred sites, legal precedent going back thousands of years. The humans refused, and the Vrexians, who had not fought a war in over 10,000 years, who had maintained peace through superior technology and overwhelming force projection, who had never, in their entire recorded history, been told no by a species less than 1,000,000 years old, decided to make an example. They sent a fleet. 200 warships, dreadnoughts, carriers, battle cruisers, enough firepower to sterilize a dozen worlds. The humans had 37 ships defending the colonies, outdated vessels, retrofitted civilian craft, a few actual warships, nothing that should have stood a chance against Vrexian military might. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the Vrexian fleet was destroyed, completely. Not a single ship escaped. 200 vessels reduced to debris, 50,000 Vrexian military personnel dead. The human casualties? 3 ships lost, 412 dead, hundreds more wounded. It should have been impossible. The Vrexians had superior technology, better shields, stronger weapons, more experience. They should have won easily. But the humans did not fight like any species the Vrexians had ever encountered. They did not follow standard tactical doctrine. They did not respect established rules of engagement. They used suicide runs, ramming attacks. They deliberately overloaded their own reactors to create explosions, and they turned their ships into weapons. And they sang while they did it. The Vrexian recordings captured it. Human battle communications. They were singing war songs from their history. Ancient melodies about death and glory and fighting against impossible odds. They were laughing and making jokes, encouraging each other. They were having fun. The Vrexian commanders could not comprehend it. They were fighting for territory, for resources, for logical, rational reasons. The humans? They were fighting because someone had threatened their people, their families, their homes, and they would rather die than surrender. After the battle, the human fleet admiral, a woman named Catherine Reeves, sent a message to the Vrexian High Command. It was broadcast on open channels. Everyone heard it. Every species, every government, every intelligence agency. I have it memorized. I hear it in my sleep. You came to our worlds, she said. You threatened our children. You demanded we abandon our homes. Did you really think we would just leave? Did you think we would run? We are human. We do not run. We do not surrender. We do not negotiate with bullies. You wanted these colonies? Come and take them. We will be waiting. The transmission ended. The Vrexian hegemony, an empire that had existed for 60,000 years, that had seen civilizations rise and fall, that had maintained order across hundreds of systems, it did nothing. They were afraid. For the first time in their long history, the Vrexians were afraid. And so was the rest of the galaxy. Because we finally understood, finally realized what we had done. We had welcomed into our peaceful, civilized community a species that viewed violence as a solution, danger as entertainment, and death as an acceptable risk. We had given them technology, training, access to our knowledge, our systems, our weaknesses, and now they were stronger, faster, more dangerous than ever. The council convened. Emergency session. Every member species represented. The debate lasted for days. Some argued for diplomacy, others for containment. A few, the ones who had actually paid attention, argued for immediate military action. In the end, we voted. Unanimous decision. First time in council history. Humanity was declared an existential threat to galactic peace and stability. Elimination protocols were authorized. The extermination order was issued. We gave ourselves 6 months to prepare, to gather forces, to coordinate strategy, to build weapons and ships and make plans. The humans found out about it in 3 days. You want to know how they responded? They laughed. Waft. Then they prepared for war. And that, my friend, is where things got really interesting. So there we were. The entire galactic community, 17 of the most advanced civilizations in known space, and preparing to wage war against a species that had barely discovered faster than light travel 3 years earlier. You would think we would have the advantage, right? Superior numbers, better technology, millions of years of accumulated knowledge. We should have rolled over them like a tidal wave over sand. Want to know what actually happened? We got our collective posteriors handed to us on a silver platter. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me back up, tell you how it all fell apart. Because the collapse was not quick. It was not some dramatic final battle. It was death by 1,000 cuts, each one small, each one seemingly insignificant, each one absolutely devastating. The Council assembled the Grand Fleet, 12,000 warships, best vessels from every member species, dreadnoughts that could shatter planets, carriers loaded with fighter craft, support vessels, supply chains, medical frigates. We had planned for everything, every contingency, every possible scenario. The fleet gathered at Rally Point Sigma, a massive staging area in neutral space. It took 6 weeks to assemble everyone, but 6 weeks of coordination and logistics and diplomatic maneuvering, 6 weeks of speeches about justice and peace and the greater good. 6 weeks the humans used to prepare. We knew they were preparing, of course. Intelligence reports flooded in. Humans were militarizing, building weapons, fortifying positions, evacuating non-combatants from border worlds. Standard pre-war activities, expected, accounted for in our battle plans. What we did not account for was how creative humans get when you threaten their extinction. The Grand Fleet jumped into human space on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were always slow at the Intelligence Center. Nothing ever happened on Tuesdays. Should have known better. Fleet Admiral Korvax, a Threnic with over 400 years of military experience, commanded the operation. His strategy was simple. Overwhelming force. Hit the human homeworld first. Destroy Earth. Cut off the head of the snake. The colonies would surrender once they realized resistance was futile. Logical. Practical. Should have worked. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, humanity's home system, expecting to find token resistance. Maybe a defensive fleet. Some orbital platforms. Nothing serious. Instead, they found nothing. Empty space. No ships. No defense stations. No mines. No weapons platforms. Nothing. Korvax was suspicious. Obviously, it was too easy. But scans showed Earth right where it was supposed to be. The other planets in their system were all accounted for. Everything seemed normal. He ordered the fleet forward, cautiously. Sensors on maximum. Weapons ready. Shields up. Every precaution. They made it halfway to Earth before the humans sprang their trap. Turns out, empty space is not actually empty. Humans had figured out how to hide things. Really hide them. Not cloaking devices. Not stealth fields. Actual camouflage. They had painted ships to match the cosmic background radiation. Hidden weapons platforms inside asteroids. Disguised mines as space debris. When the Grand Fleet reached the trigger point, 50,000 hidden weapons activated simultaneously. Missiles. Railgun slugs. Energy beams. Kinetic kill vehicles. Nuclear warheads. Antimatter torpedoes. Things we did not even have names for. The humans had apparently spent 6 weeks doing nothing but building weapons and thinking of new ways to kill people. They were very good at it. The first volley destroyed 600 ships. 600. In the opening seconds of the battle. 12,000 vessels reduced to 11,400 before anyone even knew they were under attack. Admiral Korvax, to his credit, did not panic. He ordered defensive formations. Point defense systems online. Counter fire. Return fire. All the proper responses. But human weapons kept coming. Wave after wave burst from every direction. Above, below, angles that should not have been possible. The humans had apparently decided that three-dimensional thinking was for amateurs and started attacking from four-dimensional vectors using weapons that bent space-time. I watched the battle feeds from my monitoring station, watched in growing horror as the most powerful military force ever assembled got systematically taken apart by a species that had not even known aliens existed 4 years ago. The humans were not just fighting. They were experimenting, testing new weapons in real time, trying different tactics, learning and adapting faster than our analysts could track. One human ship, a destroyer called the Reckoning, got its main drive damaged. It should have retreated. Instead, the captain deliberately overloaded the reactor, aimed his ship at a Threnic battlecruiser, and rammed it at 0.98 light speed. The explosion vaporized both vessels and severely damaged 16 other ships caught in the blast radius. The Reckoning's last transmission was the captain yelling something that translates roughly to "I will see you all in the afterlife, you magnificent lunatics." He was laughing. While committing suicide, he was laughing. That was when I realized we had made a fundamental miscalculation. We thought humans fought to win. We thought they had the same survival instinct every other species has, the same desire to live, to persist, to continue existing. We were wrong. Humans do not fight to win. They fight to make sure you lose, even if it costs them everything. Especially if it costs them everything. They would rather die taking you with them than live under your rule. It is insane, illogical, completely irrational, and absolutely terrifying. The battle for Sol lasted 3 days, 72 hours of continuous combat. The Grand Fleet lost 4,000 ships, 4,000. The humans lost their entire defensive fleet, every single vessel. They traded 40 human ships for every one Council vessel destroyed and still came out behind on raw numbers. But they won. Because when the dust settled, when the debris stopped flying, when the last fires were extinguished, Earth was still there, still intact, still defended. Admiral Korvax pulled back what remained of his fleet, 8,000 ships. Still enough to crush most civilizations. He regrouped, reassessed, planned a new approach. That was when the human counterattack began. See, we thought the defensive fleet was all they had. We thought we had faced their entire military. We were wrong, so very wrong. The humans had been building ships, lots of ships, using methods we did not understand with materials we could not identify. They had apparently decided that quality was nice but quantity had its own appeal. And they had this concept called total war. Every human colony, every outpost, every station. They all started building warships. Civilian factories retooled for military production. Mining operations shifted to producing weapons. Scientific stations began developing new technologies. Their entire civilization transformed into a war machine in a matter of weeks. They came at us like a swarm. Hundreds of ships, then thousands. Cheap vessels, barely armed, minimal shielding. They should have been easy targets, except there were so many of them. And they did not care about losses. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. They just kept coming. Endless waves. Relentless. Unstoppable. The Council tried to respond. We built more ships, deployed reserves, called up auxiliary forces. But we were playing catch-up, reacting instead of acting. And the humans? They were 3 steps ahead. They started hitting our supply lines, our infrastructure. They did not just fight our military. They went after everything: fuel depots, repair stations, manufacturing centers, medical facilities. Nothing was off limits. War crimes, by Council standards, violations of every treaty and convention we had established over millions of years. The humans did not care. When confronted about it, their military commander, a terrifying woman named General Amara Osei, said something I will never forget. "You declared war on our entire species," he said. You voted to exterminate every man, woman, and child. You wanted total war? Congratulations. You got it. No rules, no mercy, no prisoners, just war. Pure and simple. How does it feel? How did it feel? Nightmarish. Absolutely nightmarish. Because we had lived in peace for so long, we had forgotten what real war looked like, what it cost, what it demanded. The humans had not forgotten. Their entire history was war. Thousands of years of conflict. Fighting each other. Fighting nature. Fighting anything that threatened their survival. War was in their blood. And their culture. Their very identity. We had picked a fight with a species that had been practicing warfare since before we discovered fire. Bad decision. Really bad decision. The turning point came at the Battle of Kelmar Station, a major council supply hub, critical logistics center, heavily defended. Impenetrable by conventional standards, the humans sent a single ship, a freighter called the Long Haul, unarmed, broadcasting distress signals, claiming engine failure, requesting emergency docking permission. The station commander, following proper protocols, allowed them to dock, sent engineering teams to assist, offered medical aid. The Long Haul was carrying 5,000 human soldiers, special forces, elite units. They poured out of that freighter like angry insects and took the entire station in 4 hours. It was a Trojan horse. An ancient human tactic, thousands of years old, and it worked perfectly. The humans did not just capture Kelmar Station. They turned it against us, used our own defenses, our own weapons, our own supplies. They held it for 6 weeks while their engineers reverse-engineered every piece of technology they could find. When we finally retook the station, the humans had already left, gone, vanished, taking half the station's data banks with them. Later analysis showed they had downloaded classified schematics, weapon designs, shield frequencies, navigation charts, everything. They had turned a defeat into an intelligence-gathering operation, and we had helped them do it. That was when the council started to fracture. Some species wanted to negotiate, open talks, find a peaceful solution. Others wanted to escalate, deploy weapons of mass destruction, sterilize human worlds. We argued, debated, held vote after vote. While we talked, the humans kept fighting. They kept pushing, kept winning. The Threnic Confederacy was the first to break. They withdrew from the conflict, said they had lost too many ships, too many lives. The cost was not sustainable. They went home. The Maltuvian Collective followed 2 weeks later. Then the Iridian Assembly. One by one, species that had voted for human extinction decided that maybe extinction was too expensive, too difficult, too costly. Within 6 months, the Grand Alliance had collapsed. 17 species reduced to 6. Then 3. Then just the Vrexians, stubbornly insisting we could still win. General Ozai sent them a message. Short, direct, brutal. Go home, she said, before we decide to visit yours. The Vrexians, who had started this whole mess by attacking human colonies, who had lost their entire battle fleet and 50,000 personnel, went home. The war was over. Humanity had won, not through superior technology, not through better tactics. They won through sheer stubborn refusal to quit, through willingness to pay any price, through absolute commitment to survival no matter the cost. They had faced extinction and responded by nearly causing ours. The council convened one final time, emergency session. Every remaining member species. We had to decide what to do. The humans were not just dangerous anymore. They were proven dangerous, battle-tested, were victorious, and angry. Some delegates argued for immediate surrender, formal apology, reparations, whatever it took to make peace. Others suggested isolation, build a barrier, quarantine human space, pretend they did not exist. I stood up. First time I had spoken at a council session in years. I told them the truth. The thing nobody wanted to hear. We lost, I said. Not just the war. We lost our position, our authority, our credibility. We declared a species too dangerous to exist and failed to make it happen. We failed spectacularly. Every civilization in the galaxy is watching, wondering, if the mighty council cannot defeat one young species, what else can we not do? What other threats can we not handle? The chamber went silent. Nobody argued. Nobody disagreed, because I was right and they knew it. So what do we do? Asked the presiding chair, a Maltuvian named Grex. We make peace, I said. Real peace. Not the patronizing tolerance we offered before. Actual, genuine, mutual respect. We treat them as equals, or partners, because whether we like it or not, they have earned it. The vote was unanimous. For the second time in council history. First time, we voted for war. Second time, we voted for peace. Guess which one was easier? The peace talks happened on neutral ground, the space station in unclaimed territory. Both sides sent delegates. Both sides came armed. Both sides were ready for treachery. Instead, we talked. The human negotiator was a man named Ambassador Marcus Riley, a career diplomat, soft-spoken, polite, reasonable. Also, as we later learned, former Special Forces, 20 years military service, decorated veteran, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, whatever those meant. The humans always had layers. Riley laid out their terms. Simple, direct, no ambiguity. First, he said, Council acknowledges human sovereignty over all currently claimed territory. No disputes, no negotiations. What we hold, we keep. Agreed. Second, formal apology. Public. Broadcasted on all channels. The Council admits it was wrong. Admits it acted rashly. Admits it nearly committed genocide. That one hurt. But we agreed. Third, reparations. Not money. Technology. Medical. Scientific. Agricultural. Things that help people. Things that save lives. You want to make up for trying to kill us? Help us build. Help us grow. Help us thrive. Reasonable. We agreed. Fourth, mutual defense pact. If someone attacks us, you help. If someone attacks you, we help. Partners, equals. No more big brother watching the little sibling. We are in this together. And that one surprised us. After everything, after the war, the deaths, the destruction, they wanted to ally with us. Why? Grex asked. Why would you want our help? You defeated us. You proved you do not need us. Riley smiled. Thin smile. Professional. Because the galaxy is big, he said, and dangerous, and full of things we have not met yet, things that might make the Council look friendly by comparison. We would rather have friends than enemies, rather build than destroy. We fought because we had to, not because we wanted to. He paused. Let that sink in. You made a mistake, he continued. You assumed we were monsters, killers, threats. You were wrong. We are survivors, protectors, builders. Yes, we can fight. Yes, we are good at it. But that is not all we are. That is not what we want to be. Then what do you want? I asked. First time I had spoken directly to a human since this whole mess started. Riley looked at me, really looked at me. And I saw something in his eyes, something tired, something sad. We want what everyone wants, he said. To live, to grow, to explore, to learn, to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We just want to exist. Is that too much to ask? It was not. It never had been. We signed the treaty that day. The Treaty of New Horizon, named after the colony ship that had started everything. The one attacked by pirates. The one that had fought back. Humans joined the Council. Not as junior members. Not as probationary participants. As full members. equal voting rights, equal responsibilities, equal status. They brought things we had forgotten: passion, drive, innovation, willingness to take risks, to try new things, to challenge assumptions. They also brought problems. Oh, so many problems. Humans are not easy to deal with. They argue, they debate, they question everything. They refuse to accept that just because something has always been done a certain way, it should continue being done that way. But they also brought hope. Because if humans could go from unknown species to council member in less than 5 years, if they could survive a war against impossible odds, if they could turn enemies into allies through sheer force of will, then maybe anything was possible. I stayed with the intelligence service. He actually promoted me. Apparently being right about humans being dangerous, even if nobody listened, still counts for something. I now head the Human Affairs Division, full-time job monitoring what they are doing, where they are going, what they are building. It is exhausting. Humans never stop, never slow down, always moving, always building, always pushing forward. Last week they proposed a joint expedition to the galactic core, a region nobody has successfully explored. Too dangerous, too unstable, too many unknowns. The council hesitated, debated, formed committees. The humans went anyway. Took volunteers from 6 different species, built ships, trained crews, launched the expedition. They sent me an invitation, asked if I wanted to come, experience history being made. I declined. Politely, I am too old for that kind of adventure, too set in my ways, too comfortable with boring, safe, predictable existence. But I am watching, monitoring their progress, taking notes, recording everything. Because someday, someone is going to ask me what humans are really like, what makes them special, what makes them dangerous. And I am going to tell them the truth. Humans are survivors. They are fighters. They are builders. They are explorers. They are everything we used to be before we became comfortable, before we became complacent, before we forgot that civilization is not a destination. It is a journey. The Council declared humanity too dangerous to exist. We were right. They are dangerous. Incredibly dangerous. Just not in the way we thought. They are dangerous because they remind us what we could be, what we should be, what we have lost. They are dangerous because they refuse to accept limitations, refuse to stay in their assigned place, refuse to be anything less than everything they can possibly be. They are dangerous because they are human, and being human means never giving up, never surrendering, never accepting that something is impossible just because it is difficult. The galaxy is changing. Humans are changing it, making it louder, messier, more chaotic, more alive, more akin. And honestly, after millions of years of peace and stability and careful, controlled, predictable existence, it is about time. My name is Vector. I am Senior Intelligence Analyst for the Galactic Preservation Council, Human Affairs Division. I was wrong about humanity. And I have never been happier to be wrong about anything in my entire life.